It is 2 p.m. Central African time. Thank you for choosing Market View this afternoon. It is the last episode of the week. A very good afternoon to you. Stay with me over the next half an hour as we track developments around the nation's economy and how it feeds into the overall sustainable economic growth of the country. Coming up on the show, I'm in conversation with our in-house business journalist, Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla. We will be making sense of the finalization of the terms and conditions for independent power producers by the Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority. What are the imperatives of this step, and what should be the regulator considering as they award the IPPs? It is a pressing issue that is stifling a large part of the nation's economic development. We will wrap things up with an analysis of today's indices in the financial market, that with our economist Sanele Sibiya. But for now, let's look at the business news of the day. The Minister of Natural Resources and Energy, Honorable Prince Lonkokela, says they continue under the Southern African Power Pool. They need to find sustainable projects that will ensure reliable and affordable energy for their citizens. The Minister, who was represented by the Under-Secretary Technical Gabisile Mabuza, she was speaking at Happy Valley Hotel during the opening ceremony of the 62nd Southern African Power Pool General Meeting.
Acknowledge that the development of renewable energy projects being embarked on by many of the SADC countries is bringing a lot of private power developers into the sector, and it is only proper to allow them space to operate regionally. I am informed that you have revised your membership categories to allow these players to participate in electricity trading in SAP. I therefore urge you to continue to cooperate with these new players such that together you pursue the goal of providing reliable, sustainable, and affordable power for all our citizens in the region. In order to keep pace with the economic developments taking place in our countries, it is incumbent upon us as countries to invest in electricity supply infrastructure in order to avoid power deficits in future. I therefore like to commend those member states that commissioned additional power generation in 2023 and those that are continuing to do so this year. The SADC region's economies are continuing to grow in fulfillment of the SADC Industrialization Trust. Hence, the region needs more power. I therefore call upon you as experts in the field to continue to apply your minds and bring to the table solutions that will keep the lights on, even in these challenging environments. Electricity is one of the critical driving forces for economic development, and you are at the center of facilitating that. I am informed that the purpose of this meeting, among others, is to look at various issues from the planning project, preparation, operations, markets, and environmental areas. This allows you to address the issues I have mentioned here. The SADC region has huge energy resource potential in the form of coal, hydro gas, and renewable energy that need to be exploited in an economically sound and sustainable manner for the benefit of the whole region. I take it that your deliberations are part of the vital input to this process.
The managing director of the Eswatini Electricity Company, Ernest Mkonda, says major projects are being explored by the company to ensure the country reaches an energy sustainable position. The managing director was responding to a question on what measures were being taken to ensure that Eswatini does not heavily depend on imported electricity.
We have explored the hydro potential in Maguga, and we are currently in the process of developing EPC documents to invite those interested in engineering and procurement of, or rather engineering, procurement and the construction of a power supply in the country. We have a potential for 10 megawatts at Maguga, and we are working on another potential of 23 megawatts at Lower Makuta. We're also working on a project with an independent power producer that will generate 13.5 megawatts at Lower Makutuza, which is downstream of Makutuza Power Station on the Usutu Basin. We are further looking at developing a coal thermal power station that will provide us with base load, which is much needed by the country. As it were, these projects are under development, and we will begin construction once we finish financial close. These other projects that are being procured by the regulatory authority will be integrated into the energy mix. These include solar and biomass. We also have a current power purchasing agreement with Ubombo Sugar Limited, which supplies us with electricity from biomass sources. That, if you calculate, will in 5 years' time complete the current demand of power into the country. Now, coming back to the issue of why we are here today with the Southern African Power Pool, we are collaborating with all the other utilities within the Southern African Power Pool to make sure that there is sustainable, reliable, and affordable power supply in the region. And as Eswatini, we cannot go alone to provide all the power needs for the country. We need to collaborate with others so that we can keep the power supply affordable to all communities and businesses.
Let's go for a net break. We return with Nelsiwe and Dlangamandla. We're speaking about the awarding of IPPs by the Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu
sivile sive sikhulume
The Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority says negotiations with independent power producers has been concluded. The Chief Executive Officer, Sikhumbuzo Tsabetsa, says what is left now is finalizing the terms and conditions of the award. The producers will contribute to supplying the national grid, ensuring reliable and sustainable energy.
The country has committed to produce 50% of its power to be in a clean energy or renewables. We have advanced and we are at the final stages of awarding to the preferred bidders. We committed the month of February to finalize negotiations. We are happy to report that I think we are at a stage where we should in the next few weeks or 2 weeks be awarding those companies, because we have had very successful deliberations or negotiations with some of these bidders. Unfortunately, at this juncture, we cannot name those companies, but we believe that in the next few weeks, in the next 2 weeks or so, we will actually be awarding. Our principals have considered the proposed tariffs, and we need to finalize that and then issue the awards. So we are really, really happy with the progress that we have made so far in terms of the solar PV procurement for the 75 megawatts. We are also mindful of the directive from government to speed up that process, and that's exactly what we have done in the last few months.
Yeah, there it is. Nelsiwe, it is a very interesting development. I think it is one of the many things that is getting the country excited, because it is going to take us out of the doldrums of importing rather electricity from South Africa, which is getting the country really, because 2025 is next year, and we should have something on the ground working towards having our own, grid. But this particular development of IPP seems to be something that is giving us a lot of hope. What are some of, the imperatives around it? What should be considered really?
Lekumele ukuthi bakubuke kakhulu indzaba yekuthi engabe we know ukuthi the transmission nangabe lama independent power producers sekamakhile lo gesi, the transmission ya EEC, so kumele babuke tindzaba double compensation kuthi ngabe kutawu compensatewa na kanjani the pricing kwekuthi engabe lama independent power producers asathengisela EEC engabe atawubhadaleka kahle yini kude phela nawo akhone ukuthi akhe iprofit, njengoba National Energy Policy ya 2003 iyachaza lokwekuthi lama independent power producers asathengisela EEC nabo khona la kufanele ukuthi bakuthole njengoba phela bosomabhizinisi laba sifisa.
Yeah, and in terms of regulation really, as they are the regulator at the end of the day, what would you say, these are some of the things that they should make sure that they consider?
Ngicabanga ukuthi lokumcoka kakhulu vele ngilokuthi basebenzisane njengoba ashido CEO ukuthi basabuka the terms and conditions. They are still going to sign MOUs to ensure ukuthi esibathengiselana bayabuka ukuthi ngabe kutawuhamba kanjani lapho babhadaleka kanjani, kupricewa kanjani timvo letinjengaleto.
Yeah, and one wants to ask, Nelsiwe, because, from the other end of the spectrum, it's the IPPs themselves. What are they going through? I can see how they have, such a big appetite to start operating, but this is the hold-up, the award itself. What are the IPPs saying?
IPPs actually they are ready to work. All they are doing now is waiting for a SERA and EEC ukuthi asho those conditions. Sebake bahlangana babene mihlangano, I think 2 weeks ago they had meetings lapho khona bebabukusana ukuthi engabe sitawusebenta kanjani. So nyalo sekumelwe ukuthi akuvunyelwane ukuthi sitawusebenta kanjani EEC, SERA and everyone else, and level the ground so that nasicala sihambe umgamlo mudze kungabi nje ukuthi sesiyahamba asikavumelani kahle.
We heard the chairperson of Public Enterprises Association, Lapakangwane Tumsani Msibi, yesterday articulating something with which he said, and I really liked it, he said, but let's be honest, it is something that we need. It's a big ambition, but let us be honest about the fact that the infrastructure that is needed, for the IPPs to be viable really and, to be liquid is quite expensive. And they need to make sure that they do not outsource a lot of the infrastructure that they need to stay afloat, and not really sink. One wants to ask, how are they going to be able to address that? You did ask that question.
Yeah.
What generally happens with power procurement, especially equipment, perhaps I need to add that I think we're not just procuring solar PV, we're also procuring biomass. And the technologies themselves, they require that we import panels. And these panels do need to be manufactured. And because the entire world is actually competing for renewables, so the demand is quite high. So there are lead times, invariable lead times to the production of these plants. The best you could ever deliver a solar PV plant is about 12 months. So we have asked all the bidders to commit timelines from date of the award to the date of obtaining finance, because the projects do need to go through what is called a financial close, which means lenders and the bidders need to conclude the project and ensure that the project is bankable. That process in itself is an onerous process, and it requires due diligence, taking into account that the lenders would be loaning these IPPs an amount that is payable over a period of 20 to 25 years. In this regard, the processes have been carefully developed or mapped out as part of the tender award. So certainly, I think it is true that most of the equipment is actually imported from the international market. It is pegged to $1, and what we have done to ensure that the projects are delivered on time is to allow for those times, but we have squeezed those times such that we should be able to deliver these plants by 2025.
By 2025, they should be able to deliver these plants. What does this mean, for the IPPs? Awarded.
This means that ama-IPPs nyalo sekatawukhona nawo ukuthi akhone khichita gesi, but overall it means affordability, sustainability for eMaswati as a whole.
Right.
Esera has been tasked with procuring 75 megawatts solar PV and biomass for even Eswatini. So nangabe lama IPPs sekatawukhona kwekuthi asikhichitele gesi. Having those discussions nabo EEC ukuthi transmitter kanjani, we are hoping ukuthi uma ngabe EEC nabo atabanciphisela angabacharge kakhulu for the transmission and everything else, nalo gas la evenu ngehla lokho sekunyusa tindzaba temabhizinisi, sekukhulisa bo employment, since gas wethu so ngeke adule kakhulu uma sithi khichitela thina lapha evenu.
And I like the point of employment, just over and above the fact that it's going to be affordable now to buy electricity. I mean, just recently we had quite, the reaction from eMaswati, particularly on social media, after EEC issued, I'm not going to call it a statement really, but they issued that piece of information, lebe articulate in the grand scheme of things, that tariffs, I guess, so but it was written a lot of, jargon, they understand they were saying, this is stressing us, and what is even stressing us the most now is the fact that Senate presented in a way where it's good for us to interpret. Maybe because, it is such a painful thing to tell eMaswati, we are particularly in these trying economic times. Nelson, but I like the point that you raised in Zaba employment, because as Lama IPPs are established, that is business for eMaswati. They will employ people themselves, and indeed feed into the overall greed of the country, which you have rightly articulated. That is very exciting.
And EEC, what I like, Bengbuga report here, annual report, where they are saying they are taking this issue, they are aggressive with ensuring that we are producing our own clean energy. That is why we have the Southern African Power Pool meeting lapha ezulwini, lapho khona lamave akasadak ayabukisana ukuthi engabe yini lesingayenda sekisa ukuthi sitikhicitela gesi lowanele futhi gesi lohlobile. So indvuna yelitiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla ichazile ukuthi if emave akhona ukuthi ikhicitela gesi ngiyo indlela leyo iminotho lengathuthuka ngayo, and the IPPs are part of that. If anikwa lendlela yekuthi nawo akhona supplier gesi, I think live leSwatini litawukwakha sifisi.
It is a mandate that has been also given to our 12th Parliament by His Majesty the King when he opened Parliament. Veta yona indzaba kwekuthi agreement yethu nelive lase South Africa kwekuthi basupply ngayo gesi sasiyibukela ku 2025. Ithutane kakhulu ngakho ke iParliament yeshumi nakubili isuke emagonso lathi ngwena else was already articulated ukuthi indvuna yenda ini etiko letemcebo amandla na etiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla qinisekisa ukuthi nangemambala namagonso lasukako nga 2025 nangemambala nakulokushiwa kubaka esera ukuthi lo msebenzi utawube so vele ugijima, excited for that, and we are praying ukuthi by 2025 it is implemented. Asibahlole at the market, we catch up with Sanele Sibia sibuka ema indices on today's financial markets.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 76 222-000 or dial *007 *3 *7 hash, or you can use Eswatini imali. And you can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any Nedbank branch using our TV license account number 1199004337. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
It is 21 minutes after 2. Let's welcome our economist, Sanele Sbiya, on the program today. We're not connecting virtually today, Mr. Sbiya. It's really good to have you sitting right next to me as we look at today's financial markets. It was quite interesting yesterday. All U.S. markets were closed on the green, and Europe was showing mixed signals with London and Frankfurt. And, Asia was in the red across the board. I wonder if that is still the case today. I'm hoping we can continue to hear good news. Ngithenga online angithenge mbamba nabe ngifuna kuthenga eAmerica ngabe namhla kusesenjalo
no namhlanje imarket sitibonile ukuthi imarket e-US ibe ngoba itolo nasibuka besengakavuli so nami itolo ke bese setivala tisephansi ngalokuthi kube sekuphuma leti ma figures lawa e-inflation khona in the US atshengisa ke ukuthi no inflation isengakabuyi kulapho besigathe khona so nako lokho na market ethu ngathi tivala so loti phansi ngiloko kakhulu lokubukekako kusuka nakhona lapho kutotona leti indzaba tepolitiki ukuthi sisuka khona ku Super Tuesday and Donald Trump has actually clinched the a presidential candidate for the Republican Party, and we are also seeing something very interesting on the political front. Le involve TikTok. So TikTok is one of the biggest social media companies, and then there is a move in the US. Good so TikTok from the Chinese to America, at least the American component of it. So nakoloko cause the market ikakhulu lapha ukuthi tibuke ngalenye indlela the market. Prognosis.
It is very interesting. I was actually wondering how is Silicon Valley affecting markets so greatly, and I'm looking at it from an Eswatini perspective. We really need to invest more on emerging technologies really, and invest more on the young people who are actually very motivated ukuthi bangene kuloyo hlangothi lolo la technology. Ngiyafuna sibuye ukuthi engabe langeni namuhla nasilicomparisha to lona li dollar lasemelika, particularly with all these developments lothanza kuwasho ukuthi ingabe lime kanjani.
Lilangeni lethu sisena silibuka namuhla against all major currencies litshengisile ukuthi libe nako lokuthi liluza emandla kancane, kodwa lokhu sesengconywana ngako sisengakabuyeli ngale ku19, kodwa we are edging closer to lo 19. Lokho sikubuka ke ukuthi kubangelwa nginako ukuthi kusede lokuphumile lokunganani kubomakhelwane ba eSouth Africa ukuthi ingabe itrade neeconomy batayenda kanjani kulona mnyaka lesikiwo. So those are the major reasons lesibona ngazo ukuthi ama currency yethu iluza i-value against la currencies la major, but akusiko lokubhedi ngalokuthi nje nangabuka against the dollar we are still in the region of 18. So siyayibona ngazo ukuthi we are finding a new equilibrium around the 18 region, so it gets worse nasingafuna kubuyela ngale ku-19. So nyalo siyabona inombolo ngathi dina lokufuna ukuthi tisithe ngale ku-19.
Yeah, I want us to look at commodities one more time. Brent crude oil, sibonile indzaba yema barrels ukuthi kungathi bekanako kusidula-dulela. Engabe simo siya ngekushintsha yini?
Hey, nawubuka ke lamhla ngitsenami ngibuka le nombolo ngaba nako ukuthuka ngoba namhlanje nas-analyze at market Brent crude ukile wafika ku-$84 per barrel. Lokusho ukuthi lapho sisengakaboni kahle lokwehla kakhulu ukuthi ngabe soyinanga Brent crude sekehla abuya in a region let aba favorable for i-production now ema-consumers. And nawubuka le nombolo letiphumile in the US itolo, one of the major contributors kule inflation lesolo isetudlwana than expected is actually the issue of fuel, ukuthi fuel contributed close to 30%. Now uthatha ufaka nekudla nakwa contributor close to 30% of the overall figure lebesiyibona ke kuthi nombolo te inflation lephumile khona eAmerica kulo 3.2%.
I want us to look at equities one last time, particularly the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Ngabe simo sime kanjani? A lot of things are happening nakhona South Africa, particularly nawubuka lapha KZN uyamangala nje ukuthi the political climate can reach tikhathi letikaso. It's really quite interesting.
Yeah, no, it is quite interesting, and that actually shows in the markets. The South African Stock Exchange has actually made huge losses namuhla when they're still trading. But look, what the market, angabi too alarmed. They are still way above what they were previously. Just that when you're looking at it day on day, so there is still that optimism that we are seeing in the markets. But in the political front, Jacob Zuma as the running candidate. Considering the economy was really didn't perform very well under Sikhathi President Zuma. So all those things are being factored into the markets, and all of the issues, corruption, the state capture, and quite a number of issues that we are looking into. So the markets are really pricing that in and gearing for May 29 and seeing what's going to happen after May 29.
Really hoping ukuthi angeke kwenteke nakuleske sakubona eminyakeni sibonile ukuthi sebane kufungelana labanye, particularly the MK. Engabe sinayo namuhla i-Asia Stock Exchange. Asia was right across the border sukwini la itolo.
Yes, lesikubonile ke Asia namhla nakhona ukuthi kunalama issues around the whole of Asia. Such that sigadze ukuthi kuphume inombolo tenkampani lenkulu lesithi Foxconn lenyona iproducer ikakhulu lama chips la kangena cishe kuwo onke ema-electronics lesinawo. So Foxconn uke waveta tinkhomba letithi timakethe takhe aka-predict ukuthi utawukhipha inzuzo lenhle kulomnyaka. So umhlaba wonke ugadze lokho. So that's why sibuka zakhanza ukuthi iChina ikakhulu nabuka iHang Seng, ubuka na iShanghai betingasito letivale tiperforma kahle itolo. Lokho kubangeleke kubangwa ke ngona lokugadza ukuthi kutawendekani ikakhulu ngeFoxconn lesiyibonile nayo emveni ukuthi seyazama lokususa some of its productions from mainland China into parts of countries like India and Taiwan. That's where the access to the chip technology is, where ikude khona ngalaphana ekhatsi khona mainland China. So that's why we are seeing China operating ngalendlela lengasiyo namhla. But Japan is relatively okay today. Nakhona ngiloko ukuthi they are very kusitwe ngale nombolo letichamuka kode e-US kokuthi the interest rate ngathi tawuphuta kwehla in the West, but Japan is already in the negative territory, so that's giving them a bit of cushion to continue this kind of policy stance in the short to medium term.
Frankfurt and London were in the red yesterday, and Europe was showing us mixed signals. But looking at the time, and in the interest of time, I would really like for us to look at the Eswatini Stock Exchange. What are some of the industries really impacting it right now? We do see a lot of development projects happening in the country. That is exciting. In the Lubombo region, we know the IPP's development that is happening. What are we looking like, Lakai?
What we anticipate this year to move the markets construction and the capital markets. Inala nabo Greystone, who are actually in the funding my activities and projects. So this year promises to be a good year, ikakhulu coming through the capital budget expenditure yahulumende. So that is what we are expecting to happen this year. So now Bukingonyeni precast is still gaining ground, and people are still buying the shares there in anticipation for the year good. And we are seeing nabo boyinala capital nabo SEL also coming in, gaining a bit of ground, waiting for these companies should be well poised to benefit from this 6 billion in terms of capital.
Yeah, and then just go quickly and very briefly, we have a few seconds left. What are we looking like in Europe?
So Europe, we are seeing a bit of optimism today, with London just tethering on the red and then going back on the green. Logo sikubona ku-attribute ngiletinto ukuthi nakhona eLondon nase-Europe kusegadze kulama figures e-inflation to come in next week. But what we saw kulama January reports kwakungukuthi i-Europe yona is a bit stable in terms of the inflation, though it remained high, but it was steady, unlike in the US where we are seeing those jumps going back up. So Europe is a bit optimistic today.
Okay, that is very good looking, because besikhuluma about technical recession just a few weeks ago, but maphethelo ehlelo lethu lalo muhlala wale sesifike kuwo bonkhosi senta wethabela naletinye tinhlelo lesitani iphatona singe Eswatini TV. Nisale kahle.